Today's November 30th, the last day of November. MLB's taking a bit of a break over the holiday. I guess the stove was busy making Thanksgiving dinner. Let's talk pitching tonight. You're listening to the Bridge to Buctober podcast. Yes, guys. Thank you for listening to the Bridge to Buctober podcast, where we talk all about them Pittsburgh Pirates and that. My name is Josh. Jake is still traveling for the holiday, so you got just me. Got a little Boylan's cream soda here for the ride tonight. Everybody stuffed from Thanksgiving? How you feeling? We are going to talk pitching tonight. Rotation, innings, stuff like that. So, I don't know. Should be a fun one still, but we got no Jake, so chat. I know that you got my back here. Greg's out there saying, hope everyone has a good Thanksgiving. Doug says, Vibe is anxious to see if anything happens at the winter meetings. An unusual year. Yeah, there was some like moves ahead of time, and then now it's been really quiet. So that's kind of interesting to see the way they do it. Bucko Mike says he keeps hearing signings will happen at the winter meetings. So, you know, OG, what's up, dude? No 5150 root beer again. PV amp, legendary 5150. No 1919. I did have some at Thanksgiving, though. We had one of those little pony kegs at Thanksgiving, so a bunch of us had 1919 root beer there. That was a good time. So, yeah, it's had a good Thanksgiving. Saw a lot of family that I haven't seen in a long time. Obviously, Jake was in town, so I got to hang out with Jake for a while. He's still back there in town, hanging out with some family on the other side and whatnot. So, and his Broncos play tonight, so I'm sure he's way into that right now. So, I don't know. Greg says the names being floated around connected to the Bucks aren't impressive. They must aim higher. The names that are floating around, though, I mean, there's some of those, but there's also the Nailers and the Schwarbers and so on that have been thrown around. And listen, I know that the rumors are kind of treading water right now. They're not really going away. Obviously, there was one report that came out and said he had no proof that the Pirates actually made an offer to Josh Naylor. That's how I heard it. That doesn't mean that they found proof they did not offer money. And I don't think you're ever going to get there, but it's funny how quickly people jump to believe that the first report was fake after the second report came out and contradicted it. Isn't it just as true that the second report could have been inaccurate, just like the first one could have been? I don't care which way. I don't care which way it happens. Which one is fake, which one is not. Because it doesn't matter until they cross the finish line on a deal. And we've said this over and over again. So like, I don't know why we get hung up on this, on whether this was true, whether they offered money at Naylor or not, whether there's an offer out to Schwarber or not. It kind of doesn't matter. Unless they sign them, they're just missing out, regardless of whether the money went there or not. And I know that us as Pirates fans, maybe a very early rant here, us as Pirate fans would feel a little bit better if we knew that $80 million was on the table, right? I think there's like a portion of us, even us that say, I don't care unless you get it done. There's just a portion of us that says they were willing to do it. And there's something there. But then as soon as somebody else comes out and says they weren't willing to do it, you just tend to go with the last report that was made. Again, I don't care. They didn't get it done. And it sounds like with the Naylor thing, whether they did or didn't, he wanted to go back there. So they didn't give him any chances of coming back on that and saying, let's do something else. So Greg says, McNeil and O'Hearn don't impress me. Yeah, a trade for McNeil from the Mets, I would not like either. I'm with you there. I don't like a lot of that player. And so I'm with you there. O'Hearn's left-handed power, I don't hate it. But, to me, it's if you miss out on something that you really like, I don't mind O'Hearn. Martin also don't want McNeil. No, I certainly don't. I'm with you guys on that. I have seen that and I don't like that. But once again, that's another one of those reports where it's like, hey, this would be a good fit. Why don't they get together? But I don't know who's saying it's a good fit. I don't know if the Pirates are really saying that. So we don't really know if the Pirates are ever saying anything, right? Agents, reporters, that's where we get all of our stuff. We don't really know what the Pirates are thinking. Pretty sure you can't know that. So there's some of that. Bucko Mike says same thing. O'Hearn is a plan B. I agree. It's a plan B. I don't think that that's the guy. I think if you miss out on the guy, if you're outbid for, and let's humor the situation for a second. If you're outbid for Naylor and Schwarber and whoever else is, I mean, obviously we're not hearing Tucker. That's hilarious. But, if that's the case, then yeah, O'Hearn, you could do worse, right? You could do worse than O'Hearn. It's still a guy that you could probably go out and make an offer to. So I don't know. How are you guys feeling? Did you guys do any Black Friday or any shopping this weekend? You get any deals this weekend? Put them in the chat. We'll keep this kind of like, a little bit of a holiday show. Give us a break between all the things that we're going to go over here. Throw some of that stuff in there and we're there. So we do have Harrison here says McNeil and Nikki G may make a good platoon. The only problem with that is I really would like, when you're talking weak side of the platoon, somebody like Nikki G, I don't actually think that's a good fit for him. He's not been, well, I guess I don't have the numbers in front of me, but to my memory, I don't think he's really been abnormally terrible against righties and crushing lefties. I don't know. I think as a young player like that, I'd rather just see him play it out than to have somebody like McNeil come into the picture. I see where you're going, but like for me, that right side of a platoon just barely has to play. And so I'd rather not push what we have in maybe Nicky G or Nick York to a weak side platoon. That's my thing. I don't know. Martin says, I miss the days when I made a wish list from Sears Christmas catalog. Do you get we get an Amazon one? We get one from Walmart now. We get one. There's one more we get that's like that. And I can't think of what it is. I know we get an Amazon one and a Walmart one. It's not the Sears catalog. I definitely remember that from childhood. And that thing was much thicker than the ones you get now. But yeah. And Doug, I agree with this too. We need to fill our power spots before we do platooning. But I will say, if you're looking at second base and a situation comes up, I don't think that you wait to make a move just because you haven't made a move. You know what I mean? I think it's okay to go ahead and still address something that is there in front of you, rather than saying like, well, we don't want to make this deal right now. Because we're focused on these other things. I think you can do all the things at the same time. Bucko Mike says Helsley getting 2 years, $28 million. Surprising. I didn't get to see this. I think that Baltimore was really interested in him as a back end closer, but there was a conversation about Helsley. I think we brought it up last week, where he was going to get some attention as maybe possibly getting an opportunity to start. Did Baltimore say anything about that? Because that sure would make sense at 16. But then again, isn't that what Iglesias got? Didn't he get Raziel Iglesias with Atlanta? Said that weird. Didn't he get 16? So if he got 16, I can see where Helsley was saying, let's do that. Oh, gee, you're going to make me do it. I'm not going to sing it, but yes, Hills is where the toys are. Dude, I loved Hills, man. I don't know if I remember. Yeah, we probably got a Hills book, right? That sounds like we would have. Like everybody was doing it. Bucko Mike says Nicky G versus left 242, righties 266. We're getting all the information right out of the gate, guys. I would say that's not an overwhelming platoon guy if he's actually hitting better against righties. So not necessarily it. I thought maybe that the numbers were close to that. OG says the Giants were looking at Helsley as a starter, but Baltimore says they see him as a closer. So, I mean, 16 million, like I said, if Iglesias got that and he wants to go to Baltimore for the same deal, I mean, I guess he's got an argument, right? I'm not looking at their numbers side by side, but yeah, closer only. Miles says the same thing. So does Bucko Mike. O's closer out until August, so they're looking for that. Yeah, Hills is... Greg says Hills was the best. Cheap hot dogs and ices. I remember we always got ices. Yep, popcorn, slushies, G.I. Joes. All the wrestling action figures. Vince, dude, for real. We used to get the... what were they called? Me and Jake used to get them. Bendums or whatever, like the rubber ones that were... Yeah, dude. We used to get those. I totally remember that. That is dead on. That's awesome. Hills, man. Yeah, the popcorn, the whole place, you walked in, it's all you smelled was popcorn. But we used to get the red slushies or the Coke slushies or mix them or whatever. Yeah, that's awesome stuff. All right, so let's talk a little bit about pitching. Because obviously with all these moves, we got to talk about Mitch Keller until that's either happened or doesn't happen, whatever it is, whatever whatever happens with starting or with Mitch Keller's situation might have a direct result, or it might be a direct result from whatever happens on free agency. Let's say, my goodness, they get a Kyle Schwarber and they pay him $30 million a year. Is that going to make a difference on whether they got to get rid of Keller again? And if they do, what else do they have to do? Ron's asking when and where the winter meetings are. The guys got him in there. Miles says December 7 through 10. OG says Orlando. Thanks, guys. Now we got that update in there. Interesting numbers there. I see McNeil. I mean, the thing is Nicky G's better than McNeil already. All right. Anyway, let's talk about Mitch Keller. And the way I'm going to do this, and this was like something that I was looking into a couple weeks ago, and I kind of put it away. Thought maybe that maybe it would pass, or that something else would come up. And actually, Doug Smith, who's in the chat, had a text with him, and he kind of brought up this same thing. So I decided we were going to dig into this today. So thanks, Doug, for that. Basically, take a look at where the innings came from in 25 and where they're about to go in 26. And it kind of gives you an idea of whether or not you're either willing to get rid of Keller, or maybe there's something that you could do if you got rid of Keller to try to open something up. Obviously, this is not the end all be all. If they don't sign anybody, or if it doesn't look like they're going to, they owe it to themselves to put their best foot forward, I would say. And so I just don't know, unless you're getting no help in the free agent market, which is very likely. We've been following this team long enough. If you're getting no help on the free agent market and you have to move Keller to get a bat, the question is, like, who are you going to get? I don't know. It's got to be the right mix. We liked Boston. Boston looked like a great option. They would have liked someone like Keller. Did they just get someone like Keller and Sonny Gray? I guess that's a question I have. I would look at Sonny Gray and I would think, man, he's had better years than Keller has had so far. But I think at this point in Sonny Gray's career versus what you're looking forward to in the next maybe 3 years of Mitch Keller, are they pretty similar? He's going out there and he's pitching. He's got good stuff. There's some question. When he was in New York, he wasn't doing well. So there is some question of whether or not he can do this in a big market. There's another piece where is Boston really, does it play like a big market? Maybe. It's not New York, but it's not Philly. But is Boston maybe a little bit, I don't know, maybe not. Maybe I'm overblown. I'm underestimating the Boston fan base here. But is that really a problem for Sonny Gray there? And Mitch Keller, I don't think anybody's saying that. He's pitched in Pittsburgh forever. But we've kind of seen a lot from Mitch Keller over the years. Maybe some I'm trying to think of how to say this, because I don't want it to sound like it's negative, but like there has been some maybe passive or shy or timid attitude from Mitch Keller at different times. Maybe just when he's struggling, maybe it was just early, maybe he's beyond that now. But with the trade of Sonny Gray, that kind of makes it feel like that's not it. I think Boston still sees Sonny Gray as a number 3, and they've not gone out and got their number 2 yet. And if that's the case, is that Mitch Keller? So I that's the thing I question. They still have 5 or 6 outfielders that need to find a place to play. So I don't know what they're going to do, but it is a question to think, did Sonny Gray take that spot? Now you're looking at Baltimore, and a lot of their outfielders are they're in the situation they're in because those guys are not doing so well. So I don't know if any of those really work that way either. Greg says he'd be shocked if Keller's traded now. Maybe San Francisco or Baltimore. Murray, what's up, dude? Murray to LA for Bobby Miller. I think if the Pirates are trading Mitch Keller, they're not getting a pitcher back. They're looking for a bat. If he's moved, it's a major league bat that comes back, which is probably why a lot of people are not seeing him getting traded. Because if he's not going to bring back a major league bat, I don't see the Pirates making the move. I think their goal is major league bat or we keep him. So I don't know. Doug says the same thing. Trading Mitch may depend on their success getting bats early in the market because then they're desperate, right? Now all they're trying to do is beat O'Hearn. If I can get better than O'Hearn, maybe. I don't know. Miles is asking, anyone else have thoughts on the market for Keller in relation to the Cease signing? I see Keller as a huge bargain in comparison, so keep him. Count that as money spent. Yeah, I mean, Dylan Cease, I still think I think that's still a better pitcher than what you get from Keller. I think Dylan Cease has the ability to step it up pretty big. Like his ceiling is certainly higher, I guess is what I'm saying. And so in that situation, I think it's a little bit different. Bucko Mike says Jeff Suppan type. I don't know, maybe the good years of Jeff Suppan, number 3, 175 innings. I think that's what we're getting right now, between 170 and 180. I think it can get better, though. I still think that there's better in Mitch Keller. Doug brings up a good point. If Murphy has a positive effect on him, does it improve his trade value at midseason at the deadline? The only way that would, and I mean, depending on how we do, right? The only way we do is if we're out of it. I think we probably are. So, yeah, okay, yes, he says yes. The good Jeff Suppan. Murray, can you see Dustin May with the Pirates? I don't know. I don't think so. Listen, the pitching is so good here, and I say so good, but like I'll rephrase that to so promising, right? Because they're not proven yet, but it's so promising that I don't see a whole, like if you're bringing in anyone into the mix here, I would think they have to be left-handed. That's just my personal thought. That's not based on anything. But Martin says that he still thinks that Keller would have to be packaged with someone else like Santana to get the bat that they need. I don't think Santana's on the line. I don't think that's probably a good idea. I would say maybe a prospect. And I agree with that, but I think it's more Keller and a prospect, whether it be whatever they like, whether it's Termar, whether it's a younger pitcher, whether it's one of these young hitters. You got a lot of play from guys like Tony Blanco right now. And as much as we'd like to see him hit here in Pittsburgh, I could see them parting with a guy like that who's still pretty far away. I think that's probably, I agree with that it's probably going to be Keller plus to get your major league bat. But that doesn't change though, kind of where I'm saying. So Doug says only around 20 starting pitchers went 180 innings. I have that number actually in front of me because I've pulled that up. When you talk about innings pitched, it is 21. So Doug's right on. 21 pitchers pitched 180 innings or more last year. Now Matthew Boyd, 179 2/3, so very close. He could have been on that list as well. So for all intents and purposes, 22 guys. Mitch Keller was ranked 26 with that 176. So if he can get there, if he can get to that 380, I'm sorry that I said 380. I was looking at the Jeff Suppan comment. If he can get to that 180, you're talking about, he's already in the top 30. 30 teams, 30 players. I think that's a pretty good place to be. If he can get up there. Now, the ERA, there, I'm looking to see where we have 419. There's a lot higher. The guy who threw 180 out of 570, Sonny Gray had a 428 last year. We just talked about him. Mitch Keller, about 10 points lower on the ERA than Sonny Gray. So, but Sonny Gray's had some really good years on top of that. There was a guy who pitched 187 and 2/3, had a 197. I think we're all familiar with who that was. But if you could get Mitch Keller under 4 right now at 180 innings, like that's really good. There's guys on this list. Luis Castillo is that way. Jesus Luzardo is that way. And I'm trying to not go like to clear down to 350. 365 Robbie Ray. I mean, like these are really good pitchers. So I think if you could get him there, I mean, even Framber had 192 and a 366. That actually surprises me a little bit. Zach Gallen was at a 483 and he threw 192 innings. So there are definitely guys up there, him being the highest of those top 10 guys. Nobody else was over 4 and he was at a 483. So that's pretty crazy, but I don't know. Greg asked about Helio Ramos. I think I said that right. I don't think so. I don't think that's the guy for me, but I haven't looked his numbers up, so I don't know. But I would think off the top of my head, no. I'm looking for something specifically. Like I said, haven't looked him up. Does he hit left-handed is my first question. If he doesn't hit left-handed, no, he's right-handed. I thought so. So I think for me, it has to be a left-handed hitter. Coming to Pittsburgh, we're looking for power from the left side. And he's a good player. Like I'm looking at these numbers, he's fine. But I think I need a left-handed hitter. I think that's why they're going after, well, right now it seems like they're going after guys to hit left-handed from the DH spot. But I think when you're even thinking left field too, I think I need a left-handed hitter. So let's take a look at some innings here. Let's go ahead and get into it. The easiest two when we talk about 2025, Skeens 187 and 2/3, Keller 176 and 1/3. They combined for 364 innings. Heaney was traded away. Falter was traded away. They had 120 and 1/3 for Heaney, 113 and 1/3 for Falter. That's 233 and 2/3 innings. So we're already getting to the point where, okay, no one else pitched 100 innings for this team, which, I mean, those are 4 guys. That makes sense. Carmen Mlodzinski was the closest. He was at 99 innings, and we know that he got time as a starter, time as a bulk reliever. A lot of innings for him, just covering, right? And these are major league innings. We're going to get into some of the other innings a little bit later. Mike Burrows, 96 innings. He was up for quite a while. Ashcraft, 69.2 innings. Johan Oviedo coming back from injury, 40 and 1/3. Bubba Chandler, 31 and 1/3. And then you got Thomas Harrington, who threw 8 and 2/3, and Hunter Barco, who threw 3 innings. That's 348 innings with all 7? Yeah, 7 of those combined. That's an overall of about 945 and 2/3 innings from this group. Now, that's just to get through the 2025 season. So I think it's safe to say like 950 innings from your, I want to call them starting group, right? And the reason I'm going to say that is because let's just put this into perspective to say like, these don't have to be starts. These are all-purpose innings, all-purpose, like it's running back and a kick returner. But these are all-purpose innings, whether they came in after the beginning of the game or they started the game. Because I think they're gonna do a lot of that again this year. I don't see a way you don't when you start to think about who's going to pitch how many innings and how long they're going to go. So I think when you see these types of numbers, and we start counting, okay, can you miss 180 innings from Mitch Keller or not, right? And I think that's there. And this is what Doug's saying too. How do we replace Keller's 176 innings? And with Heaney, Falter, Moretta, Holderman, that's another 275 innings. And so I'm just looking at starters here. Doug's going another layer there to say we got even with Moretta and Holderman throwing them in there and saying like there's more innings. I think you're going to get some of those innings, by the way, from guys like Brandon Bidwell, guys like Ryan Harbin. I had a list of kind of like the Fangraphs projections of innings, and so I think you're going to get some of those guys. Chase Sugar is still listed in AAA. Cam Sanders, those guys all got opportunities. Tyler Samaniego was just put on the 40-man. I wouldn't be surprised at 27 years old if he gets an opportunity to pitch a little bit here and there in the season. You've got all those guys I mentioned, plus Evan Sisk, Johan Ramirez, Kyle Nicholas, Justin Lawrence will be back for a full season, and then Isaac Mattson still too. So that's the reason why Dennis Santana threw 70 innings last year. If he's the closer, I don't see him throwing 70, but 70 innings. There's a lot there. So Bucko Mike getting out ahead of it. I love it. Bubba will be replacing 120 of them. So he only threw 31 and a third, but overall, when you look at him or his major league and his minor league, he threw 131 innings. And so let's take a look through what you have. Now, obviously, Heaney and Falter are gone. So there's 200 plus innings, 233 innings that are gone. So what can we expect moving forward? And I want you guys to chime in on this too, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to list like the last 3 years of what these guys have thrown innings wise, just to get an idea of what we can expect from these guys. And then let's take a look at what we are projected to look at, right? Skeens, if you look at college and pro ball, 129 and a third inning. Can I round? If it's 1/3, I'm just going to stay at the inning. If it's 2/3, I'm going to go to the next. I think that's fair, right? 130 or 129 innings for Skeens in 23, 160 in 24, and 188 last year. Like I said, let's round. Fangraphs has him pegged at 196 innings. I think that's pretty fair. I don't think there's not a whole lot there to argue with. I would think my first number was like 190, but of course, when Fangraphs put 196, I said, let's go. Keller was 194 in 23, and then 178, 176. They've got him pegged, I think, at a 180. I'm thinking maybe 185 is what I'm looking for out of Keller. So I'm going to work like 185 is the number that I need to replace if I trade Keller, because that's what I would like to get out of him. Majinski was the next highest, but he was 63 innings, 79 innings in 24. And last year he threw 115 innings. And that's all together, AAA. And so he was 99 plus, 99 in major leagues plus, and that's 114 and 2/3 innings. So, I mean, I think Majinski probably spends most of the time in the bullpen. If anybody has a different idea, I have him pegged at maybe like 100 innings, because I think that he'll do some long relief. But I think for the most part, we might even see him work his way to the back end of the bullpen. And if so, that's definitely going to be less, right? Mike Burrows, he came back from injury in 23. He only threw 6.2 innings, 24, 54 and 2/3. 25 was 128 innings. All said, I think it was 96, did I say? So 128 innings overall. I've got no problem seeing Mike Burrows for 140 this season. If he was at 130, 140 is not a stretch. I know they're major league innings. And this is what I'm looking at here, these innings, because we're going to start getting into these guys. Burrows, 140 innings. Maybe they're all for the Pirates. Maybe some of them are in Indianapolis. I don't really know. But I'm looking at all together about 140 innings is probably where they'll have him this season. Ashcraft, 52 and 2/3, 73, 118 this year. I have him also at 140, but that might be a little bit generous. Well, maybe not. That's only a 22 inning increase. So really for Burrows, I think because of the fact that his innings were a little bit less before, I didn't go as aggressive with him, but you're looking 140, 150 out of these guys. You really are. Oviedo did not pitch in 24, so I went all the way back to 22 just to show that he's got a body of work, 117 177 in 23. And then this year was only 66 and a third. 66 and a third innings from Oviedo coming out of injury. You think it's maybe fair to say that Jared Jones, who also had it early, but not as early as Oviedo, but Oviedo had a setback, and Oviedo had full-blown Tommy John. Jones didn't. 66 innings. I see Bucko Mike said Jones probably 40 innings like Oviedo. I think that's probably about right. Oviedo, 66 innings total. And Jones will throw some in the minor leagues, obviously. So I think 66 is there. I have him projected. Let's see. Bucko Mike says Oviedo probably goes 90 innings. I think he could probably push more than that. Right? I'm thinking maybe 115, 120. I mean, the guy is durable. He can go. He's just working his way back. He's had a full season to do that. So I don't know. I see him definitely in the major leagues though, right? If he's not pitching, so all of his innings will be there. I think. Maybe not, but I think. Bubba Chandler is the surprising one, I think, of the group. And I think that some people aren't really thinking of Bubba Chandler as a guy like this, but 111 innings in 23, 120 in 24, 131 in 25. He's going up 10 every season. I don't see a problem with Bubba Chandler going 150 innings this year. I know Bucko Mike, you said 120 of them. Why not? I mean, why he threw more than 120. Now, maybe once again, maybe you're saying just major league innings. Maybe you think that there might be a little bit of those in the minor leagues, and that could be too. I think 150 innings, if he goes 30 starts and you only ask him on average to throw 5 innings, he gets 150. And so I think if they continue to do this thing where Chandler pitches and then you throw Burrows or Ashcraft or even Majinski or Oviedo after him and you ask him to give you 3 innings one start and then 5 innings the next or something, I think that you can manage that and keep Chandler around 150 innings. Even if you're doing well at the end and you have the ability to push him a little bit, I think that you can do that. Harrington's a wild card because obviously these are not all going to be major league innings. He's got a ways to work back from a rough season, but 127 innings in 23, 117 in 24, and only 105 last year. So it's actually trending down a little bit just because of a couple things, and that's probably not it's probably explainable, right? I have him pegged for probably I wrote 140. I don't really think that you're probably going to push him that hard. Let's say he tops out at 130. I have no idea how many of those are going to be in major leagues, though. I really don't. Hunter Barco is a really interesting one because this year he threw 102 innings, and that was double. Well, not double. He threw 18 in 23, 66 in 24, and jumped all the way to 102. I can't imagine he goes beyond 130. 30 innings isn't a huge jump from year to year. That's, what you're looking for. And I don't know. I don't think that they're going to push Barco further than a 130. And I think a lot of those innings, because of that, I think a lot of those innings happen in AAA when he goes a lot of like short outings or something, just to make sure that maybe you can buy him some time. I mean, he only threw 3 innings in the majors last year. Some of these other guys are a little further out ahead. So I think that that's pretty fair. And then Jared Jones, I don't know. We've thrown around 40 innings. 50 is what Fangraphs has him as. That's what I wrote down, was 50 innings. If you get rid of Keller, you're dropping, say, 180 innings from that list, right? And if you do the math, and I have a little sheet here with all of those numbers that I just called out, and let me see, let's double check some of these and make sure that they have updated numbers on them. Probably knock him down to 130. Ashcraft, that's the same. That's the same. Okay. That's a surplus. If you need 950, you've got a surplus of about 386 innings. Now, that's with Keller. If you take Keller out of there, then you're at like 200 innings, right? So from the 380 away from Keller, you're down to like 200 innings surplus. Now, those 200 innings are likely in AAA, right? I don't know how many of them, but like there is enough here that you could probably say, no, we can cover that. If you look at just Fangraphs projections, you still have a surplus of about 97 innings. That's not even close to enough. Because like we said, now these are major league innings. Like you got Harrington down to 28 innings. Barco at 71, Jones actually at 0 at this point. Actually, Fangraphs has him at 0. You're right. I put him as 50. We could knock that down to 40. It doesn't really matter. Matter of fact, I think I can even show this. So you've got some numbers here. And if you look at this, if you need 950, this is what you could get from these guys. Now, Fangraphs, this is a little more of a major league number. As you can see, Majinski, they've got him a little bit lower down at 74. That's probably pretty close, somewhere between this, I think, for Majinski, depending on how much he goes multiple innings. Bucko Mike put in here, Harrington's in AAA most year. I agree with that. This is probably a pretty good number for Thomas Harrington. He's going to come up if they need him to come up. I think that's a pretty fair statement. 70 innings from Oviedo. I've got him pegged higher than that because I think all of his innings are going to be there. But either way, this 97 is not enough to trade Mitch Keller and not do something else. It's just not enough. That's not enough overage to be thinking about it. You get one of these guys hurt, specifically one of these guys who are the, maybe your odds on top 5, where if you remove Keller, obviously you're in a deficit. You can't cover those innings. Now you could say Jones, you could add a little bit to it, but you see what I'm saying? You have to do something. As Doug says, injuries, they're going to happen. I think some of this is included, maybe not in some of those numbers. I mean, we're looking at, I think you could go a little bit higher on a couple of these. I think, so this 130, I said this before, this 130 is not major league innings. None of these are. These are total innings, except for that one that I knocked down. I think if you do total innings, I had him at 50 total innings, not in the show, but total. You can see where, like, dudes, they can't just trade Keller and not do anything else. Keller's going to make what, 17 million? It's like almost 17 million. So if you trade him in order to put more money towards a bat, or maybe you get a bat for it, maybe that bat costs $10 million. Then you've got $7 million to play with. Maybe that bat costs $7 million because he's a younger player who's maybe just into arbitration or something. Then you've got $10 million that you can put towards something else. Somebody put a comment in here. They'll sign a Tyler Anderson type. That's possible. It's also possible that maybe like a Jose Quintana who's out there, right? He had a calf injury at the end of the year. There's nothing wrong with his arm. He came back for the postseason. He threw 130 some innings. So maybe you can get like 130 from Jose Quintana. You've had him before. You like him. He's left-handed. That kind of thing works at PNC Park. I think if you're replacing Mitch Keller like that, could you go out and spend $7 million on $7 to $10 million on a Jose Quintana to get you until Hunter Barco can show up and do damage? Any takers on that? Bucko Mike has Jones showing up in August, Barco showing up in June, and will be long relief, 2 to 3 inning stints. I could see that happening. I think that, once again, there's a lot at play here, because the first things first, you have to believe that whatever you do in this deal, that Mitch Keller brings back a major league bat. Then you start worrying about this. If you can't get a major league bat, this shows that you're better off keeping Mitch Keller than dealing Mitch Keller because of that. Because now you're saying, okay, secondary, we've got to make sure we can get Quintana in here or someone similar to that, right? Doesn't have to be him. I just like that because he's a lefty and he's been there before. And I think that you can get him in that. I mean, I think he's what, 37, 38. So I think you can get him in that 7 to 10. A lot of starting pitchers are not going to sign for 10 million or less. It's just not going to happen unless they're real bad, or not real bad necessarily, real like desperate or need a bounce back or something like that. And I think you could probably get Jose Quintana in there, let him throw for as long as you can keep him in there. I mean, he was still under a 4 last year in the 130 plus innings he threw, and he did a lot of that in Milwaukee, which, you know, is a hitter's park for the most part. I think you could do worse, but I think that would probably be the only way that I would feel good about parting with Mitch Keller in this case. So, I don't know. Like I said, Quintana would be a good option. Are you trading Mitch Keller? When we think about this and we look at these numbers in the chat, guys, are you trading Mitch Keller knowing this stuff? Is it as simple as, you know, you have to have a bat come back and you don't think that you're going to get it? Get your takes in here just so I can read those. But when I looked through this and was kind of looking through doing actual math of what you need to get, and obviously the bullpen has several guys in it that are going to cover a lot of innings as far as the bullpen goes. But just for your starting group, we have a large group here, and I like all of these guys. Like I said, Harrington had a little bit of a rough year. I still like Thomas Harrington. I still think that he's going to be a good pitcher. Or can be a good pitcher. All these guys, right? They can be, or they probably won't. I definitely think that that's something there. Greg kind of echoes not trading him unless I get the bat I desperately need. And like I said, of all the bats that you're looking for out there in the trade market, man, Boston, I feel like had maybe some of the best options. I'll take a platoon left-handed bat if it's a really good one, because like I said, the right side or the weak side of that platoon is a lot better. Bucko Mike, you got me. I told you that he did a lot of that in Milwaukee. Quintana had a 5.08 ERA in Milwaukee and 2.97 on the road. So you really could do well by getting Quintana out of Milwaukee in the first place. But at 297 on the road, man, you're still getting you're going to end up with your Bailey Falter numbers at home again. And on the road is where it's going to be interesting. And you're going into Cincinnati and Milwaukee and things like that. Obviously it's tough for a lot of guys to pitch there, but especially guys like him, right? With the lefty, the crafty lefties or whatever, they're going to get hit when you can see the ball well. When Pittsburgh says we need bats to score runs. I think that's the big thing, right? I mean, obviously having a good pitching staff means that you can score less runs. Nowhere near what happened last year. That's ridiculous. But if you could be league average in scoring runs with a good pitching staff like this can be, you could go pretty far with a league average offense. And I think that's about all you can expect from this team if they make a big signing, because we don't know if O'Neal Cruz is going to finally happen. We don't know if Brian Reynolds is actually on the way down or if he's going to bounce back. We don't know what we're getting. We talked about Nick Gonzalez on here. We don't know if he's going to become the player that we think he can become. What's up, Jim? We don't know if Spencer Horwitz takes another step forward or if he's what he is, which is still good, but it's not enough that those guys are all of a sudden going to make you a top 10 offense if you go sign Kyle Schwarber. Like he's not going to have that type of effect or a Josh Naylor or whatever else we've heard, right? That's not the kind of effect one guy is going to have on the offense. So I think there's going to need to be more than one move. And if you can only get one of these guys, if my goodness, if you sign Kyle Schwarber for $30 million a year, like, yeah, it's going to make a difference on this offense, but you're still going to need to pitch. So I think unless Keller comes with another guy, I don't know what you're doing. Like, you can't count on O'Neal Cruz finally hitting 40 homers. We know he can do it. We just don't know if he ever will. So I don't know. Greg says the A's would be great trade partners. They have what we need. Word is they aren't moving any of them. I mean, I feel like they have a lot of young options, though. I don't know why they would move any of them. And they signed Rooker long term, and again, he's not left-handed. I don't know. I don't know if that would be there or not. When Pittsburgh said, just like last winter, where's the power coming from? That's the question. It has to come from the left side. It has to. Greg says, I don't count on Cruz for anything. Like I said, it's there. You just don't know if it'll ever happen. I don't question that it's there. I think if you do, you're probably lying to yourself. But I'll echo the same thing. You can't count on it ever happening, or not ever happening even, but happening this year for sure. You can't do that. It has to be something. I mean, I don't even... Naylor or Schwarber, either one. They come here, they're gonna DH. And I'm stuck on them because those are those are the big bats that have been talked about. Either one of them are going to DH. You still have two holes to fill. I don't know. I guess it's just interesting. It's interesting to think about how you're going to, if you make an offer at $30 million a year at Schwarber, I don't know what else you can do. Specifically without trading Keller. And I think if you get into a situation where you have to trade Keller because of money, then I think you're kind of, I don't know. I think it's silly. If you're willing to go 30 on Schwarber, you better be willing to do more. If you have to pay one guy enough that you have to get rid of another guy, I don't like that. Now, if you can get a good player, back, a good hitter back, I'll always go back because it's the easiest thing for me to say. If you could get Wilyer Abreu from Boston, which I don't think after the Sonny Gray trade, that's really an option. I don't know. If you could get him, I'd be happy with him. You get a Gold Glove defense, and he's a left-handed bat. Even if you have to go weak side platoon with him, it's worth it. Your strong side is going to play most often, and I still think that it's worth it to have it in there. So, then you're talking, okay, now we've got a pretty decent offense. We've put a couple guys in the middle of this order, and you're there. Jim, you're right on. If you offer Schwarber $30 million, the Phillies will offer him 31. And I'm just using that as an example right now. I'm not actually suggesting that I'll even say this. I'm not even suggesting he's the right fit because of that. However, you need to do something. And I think Naylor's a pretty good bargain. I think his price makes a lot of sense for who he is, and it would have made sense if the Pirates were at $80 million. I think that would make sense. This number is going to be a really aggressive number. So yeah. Jim, you think Schwarber would be perfect? Yeah, I mean, he's certainly going to hit a lot of home runs. There's no question. I wonder if, Reynolds or Cruz, one of them has to be big in order to help this out, because you need protection for a guy like Schwarber to be what he can be. I mean, you have to have a Bryce Harper. I mean, they got a bunch of guys in that lineup, but a Bryce Harper makes a big difference going up next to them. Bucko Mike, Pirates have more holes in their lineup than Jim has in that beard. They're young, And I never discount or discredit natural progression. I will always believe in natural progression, specifically from a team who isn't going to be able to just go out and buy every position in your lineup. I don't think that that's there. I count on my guys because they have to. They should be. I count on my guys each year they're in the show to get a little bit better. And I do everything I can to make sure that that happens. That is critical. And that's not just critical for the Pirates. But look at teams like, you talk about the Dodgers who can get whoever they want. They still get this out of their players. They still make progress every offseason. Every player comes back, specifically young player, comes back having fixed something they were working on or at least made an effort to fix something, and they get better. And I think that there's nothing wrong with saying you expect those players to get better. That's part of their job. I expect Nick Gonzalez to come back stronger. I expect Henry Davis to come back stronger. Regardless of what that is, if it's only 201, I expect it to be better. I expect Horwitz to be working on stuff. Every single position there, I expect to get better. And if they don't, they're not holding their end of the deal up. And that happens. I'm not saying that I believe that every one of these guys is going to work. That's not how things work. Not every one of them will. To say that they have that many holes, I just don't agree with. They have major league hitters there that just need to mature and get better. I think they have 3 big holes. And I say 3 loosely, because left field and third base are big holes. Shortstop would be my other position, but I think we're all pretty stubborn on Connor Griffin being the answer to that hole. And I'm okay with that. So I don't want to just throw that out there. I'm okay with being stubborn on that. Jared Triolo's not an answer for anything for me other than a bench bat and a defensive substitution. That's just where I'm at. So I think that's my statement on that. I don't think they have that many holes. I think if they replace, the problem is they don't have the main pieces of their offense. That's their problem. They have all supporting cast guys. They need the stars. They need O'Neal Cruz to turn into somebody who's better than that, right? They need Brian Reynolds still, I think, is supporting cast, but I think he could be very good supporting cast if he's back to being very good Brian Reynolds, a top 10, at the time left field. But if he can get back into that top 10 category, sure, he's at the bottom of the top 10, but that's fine. I think that he could be someone there. DH as a whole, Martin says, yes, I can see that. I was more thinking position wise because I'm a National League head, and that's my bad there. But I think if Kutch came back at DH, it's not a hole. I think it's fine. I don't think that it's great, and I would like to see one of these guys come in and take that spot. But I question. I think if you get a guy for DH, I know what the Pirates are going to do, man. They're going to play Jared Triolo at third base, and they're not going to fix third base. Or they're going to play Jack Swinsky in left. They're going to do one of those 2 things, and I don't know. Greg says, I believe Henry will be hitting in the middle of the lineup by August. I love that. I hope that that's true. I love that. I love that. OG says, Keller doesn't have the surplus value to bring back a worthwhile bat. He's far more valuable to keep than he is to trade. Again, OG, I say this, I don't clarify this every time, but I do expect that Keller gets moved with a prospect to get the bat. I don't think it's a 1-for-1, although that deal between the Rangers and the Mets made me believe that there is a world where you can trade a major leaguer for a major leaguer again. It doesn't happen very often. It's usually prospect for major leaguer, but it can happen. And if somebody needs that, I mean, we've been talking about it for a couple of years and it hasn't. So I don't necessarily believe that it will, but I expect that if Keller gets moved, he gets moved with with a minor leaguer as well. Whatever they like, whatever they need, there'll be somebody moved with them. I think outside of the top 5, I don't think you're moving Seth Hernandez with him, but I think you're probably going to see somebody move along with him. If it's a deal, if it's a trade, I don't think you can go straight up 1-for-1. So Doug Smith says, if I were a Don Kelly, who I believe is a self-respecting manager, who would, what would I tell everyone to work on in the offseason? Get the hitting approach straight. I mean, they're all going to have to do it. When Pittsburgh says need to add at least 2 bats to move the needle, I agree with that. That's it. Bucko Mike, they have the bench players, not the stars. I think they have supporting cast. I know what you're saying. I think they have supporting cast. Other than the positions they have holes in, I think they have the supporting cast in place. And I'm not saying that it necessarily has to be, I'm not saying it has to be Nick Gonzalez, but you got Nick York right there knocking down the door. I think that guy's a baller who's going to hit, second half of your lineup somewhere, be gritty, play hard, start rallies, things like that. There's guys on those teams all the time. I think he's a ball player. I like him too. And if not those guys, Termarr Johnson is not, just because he's taking a normal amount of time to make it to the major leagues doesn't mean he's a bust. There still is a possibility that Termarr Johnson turns into something that left-handed, the power can play at PNC Park. So I certainly don't think that he's somebody to write off. Miles, I don't agree with the roster full of Kevin Newmans. And Greg, doubling down. I have a lot of faith in Henry. Maybe I'm a fool. Listen, I don't think that you necessarily are. I think that because it's been so bad, I think it's reasonable that guys don't believe in it because it's been that bad. But I also think the guy was drafted as a hitter. He's worked hard. He wasn't a good defensive catcher. He's all of a sudden now a good defensive catcher because of the work he put in. He's never going to be short of working hard. If he can get the bat around, or if somebody can get the bat around who had the pedigree that he did, it's him. He's going to work that hard. He doesn't take anything for granted. So I don't think it's crazy. Angels, Orioles, baseball trade too. Yeah, absolutely. Greg, I don't know about having more faith in Henry than O'Neill, though. O'Neill is still doing things that look like really good hitters. What they do. Like, he's doing things that no one else does. And we've seen it. We've seen it in spurts from O'Neill. The beginning of last year, there's been some different times when we've seen O'Neill Cruz hit the way that he can. I mean, I don't think that 40 home runs is crazy at some point in his career. I don't know that he'll be able to do it, but it's certainly there. I don't know about as far as improving. I understand. Yeah, well then yes, because what you see from Henry. If we would have saw O'Neill Cruz become a good center fielder this year, then I think you make the same case for O'Neill Cruz. We've seen the fruits of it, I guess, for lack of a better term. The hard work is there. I assume that every one of these guys works hard. That's my first assumption until I'm proven otherwise. But being able to see something, you can work hard and not do the right thing and not get anywhere. We saw Henry Davis work hard and actually get better at something. So, yeah, I think it's fair to say you have more faith in the fact that he can do that, where O'Neill Cruz had an offseason to get to be a good outfielder, and we didn't see that happen. So, yeah, that is there. That's a good question. Jake, what would Jake do? He would watch the Denver Broncos on Sunday night instead of jumping on here. I'm kidding. He's traveling. He doesn't have his stuff. He doesn't have the internet to do it. I'm totally kidding. Now I got to let him know I said that, so it's not like I'm talking behind his back, right? So I don't know. Yeah, I think it's an interesting thing to look at and to talk about. If you're going to deal Keller, you have to come up with those innings, and the guys that are in place right now are not going to come up with those innings according to the math. And this is my math, not reality. Fangraphs math, not reality. But you trade Keller, you're working from a deficit. So unless you're bringing in Jose Quintana and you're doing it quick, or someone like that, right? That's my example. Man, I couldn't get behind moving Keller like that. Now, for moving forward, looking at 27, 28, I'm not worried about it. I think these guys can cover those innings for that. And there's going to be more. There's going to be more on the way. So that I'm not worried about. But this team said they were going to compete in 2026. That's what I plan to see, a team that puts together a roster that tries to compete. And unless you sign Kyle Schwarber and you're getting back a player similar to Wilyer Abreu for Mitch Keller plus, I don't think that trading Mitch Keller may not be the right move. That's my conclusion. I think some of you guys agree with that. I think some of you guys don't even agree with, or I think some of you guys wouldn't trade him regardless. Period. Full stop. That's right. Get that guy out of here. So nobody did any Black Friday shopping. I didn't see anybody put anything in there other than talking about the Hills and the Sears books. But I didn't see anybody did any shopping or anything. I looked around. I got a new pair of shoes. I'm still kind of looking. You know, we got Cyber Monday still tomorrow. I'm looking at some GoPro stuff. I don't know if I'll get anything or not, but they've got some pretty good deals running too. Some accessories for the GoPro. I'll probably do something with that. I'll probably get something. But I don't know. I have felt like this year was a different one because there wasn't really anything that I was really needing. Doug got a bunch of fruit and goodie baskets for people. There you go. Bucko Mike does the week before Christmas shopping. All right. Tommy John, 50% off. Let's not talk about Tommy John on a baseball podcast, bro. You just can't do that. I know what you're talking about, but we just talked about pitching for an hour, and you say the words Tommy John out loud in chat. Made me say them. Come on, man. All right, that's all we got today. Thanks for sticking around with me. I know that going over a bunch of numbers sometimes makes it a little bit hard to follow, specifically if you're on audio. So I appreciate you hanging out and sticking around till the end and all that stuff. But as always, thankful for everybody who listens to this show, whether it's every week or whenever you catch it. I absolutely do appreciate all of it. And so does Jake. I don't have my Norm button, but so does Jake. We appreciate it. I don't know. I mean, the Pirates need to do something. Like I said, if they do something, I'll pop in with something during the week. If not, we'll be back at it next Sunday, I believe. Is not anything crazy, right? No, we're fine. We'll probably be back at it next Sunday. Appreciate you guys. Let's play some music. Let's get out of here. Pirates signed Kyle Schwarber this week? No. All right. Let's get out of here. Thanks, guys. Let's go Bucks.
Thanks for listening to my dad and Uncle Jake on the Bridge to Buctober podcast. Follow them on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Bridge2Buctober. Don't forget to subscribe so you know when new episodes are released. Clear the deck, cannonball coming, and let's go Bucks.